Hell yeah. Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host Matt. Hey Matt.
Hey, Kat. Hey, everyone. How are you?
Well, this is it. This is our final episode of Resilience.
Yeah, it's been a long slog with all these interviews we've done.
They've been so interesting, though. I found them to be very fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of good stories and going to be an interesting production.
Yes, I think it's really like it's not often you get to feel almost like you were there, as the person is telling this story. It really does draw you into like what it would feel like to be in that moment.
Yeah, and a tornado and all the stuff after it.
Yeah. So I think, I think this will be a really powerful production, and I hope that, I just hope that a lot of people will attend and walk away from it with resilience and hope.
Yeah, when are the shows going to be? Like mid-December, right?
Yes, December 13th and 14th. So, 3 different venues, 3 different menus.
And tickets are on sale now?
Tickets are on Eventbrite, so we've actually already started, we've have ticket sales already, which is a great sign being, a few months out from the production.
Yeah, this is good.
So I do expect that, these all 3 will probably sell out. So if you want to see the show, it probably is a good idea to get them,
Get
in a
them
timely
early.
manner.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So,
So now all we have to do is write the thing.
yes, I think that's, of course, a challenge. I mean, some of the challenges are like, not making it overly gory or,
Yeah,
I mean, telling this story. And of course, you can't change what happened,
right.
but not in a way that it's going to be, you know, like traumatic for someone or whatever. So, when people hear, that it's about tornadoes or hardships, I just want people to like put that in the right context, of what of how it will be told. It won't be, blood every place and, like
Right, yeah.
things like that. It's not going to be like that.
I mean, there will be some discussion of the injuries that people had and stuff like that in specific cases, but generally it'll be, they were
It'd
there.
be someone telling you,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So, I think that's a lot different than like what the people that were there saw. I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
So we did talk to a couple first responders who were there right after the tornado, and uh, they talk about some of the things they saw, and then we also have people who were in their houses when the tornado arrived, and that was interesting, I think.
all of it has just been very interesting, and it all fits together like people that are completely, not connected, and they tell their story, and it matches with someone else's that was, had already told us about a certain like area that they were in,
Right.
and then you might get the first responder that was in that area and they mentioned something that was mentioned already. It's just really, well, resilience. It's like resilience plus 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 for the people that lived through that.
Yeah. And then we have a meteorologist too, which was really, that was a good call on getting that person to talk to us. Provided a lot of good info.
It was, and, I think it gives a human perspective, but also, a more scientific one, because most of the stories are feelings, or emotions of,
Right.
and to some degree, what they heard and that kind of thing. And there's science, of course, in like the structure and
Right.
how much, but most people don't mention that part. But the meteorologist, he did talk about like what kind of winds that certain houses could withstand,
Right.
probably, and things like that. So, and also, I think very good from him was a lot of tips about, how to prepare for if something like this were to happen to listeners, like the things that can give you better chances of survival.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is going to make it into the play because we do have a limited time in which, the play has to happen. So,
It probably could be in the program or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
It's definitely good information. So,
yep, for sure. So we got that going on, and then you're done with Roots of the Bluegrass, or no?
Roots of the Bluegrass is in the final, getting ready to go into the final round of scoring for the full length. And then, next month is a monologue competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first year of that, though, and it's for students. So, you could get like thousands, or, you might only get, a handful, because there's nothing really. It's the first time ever having it. So there's no way to know, what the response will be like.
Yeah. Are you involved in that one at all?
Yeah, well, same thing, coordinating.
Ah, okay.
So,
I wasn't sure
so
if you were doing that.
yes. So, part of me's like, okay, let's go for the handful of them.
Yeah, yeah, nothing like keeping busy. So, you're involved in this Ruth Hunt candy making play?
Yes, the Ruth Hunt's radio play contest, and I'm a finalist. So there's four others,
Mm-hmm.
and tomorrow at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern is the deadline to submit, and I went ahead and submitted today.
Mm. So you had to submit part of a play, and then they'll choose based on that.
And so you had to write two scenes that show, contrasting writing style.
Mm, I see.
And I chose the first and the last scene. And I feel like that's a good contrast. I mean, that's where you see often a lot of contrast is the way something starts and the way it ends.
Right. So what was I gonna say? Was it any different writing a play for radio than a regular play?
It was, I found myself, because we've had about, I don't know, 3 weeks or so to do
Mm-hmm.
this, maybe a month even. I mean, it's been a pretty good span of time. And so, in my first drafts, as I look back, I was putting in, a lot of like props and what you would see and, that kind of thing, because that's what I'm used to.
Right. Yeah.
And, so putting sound effects in, or even to some degree, imagining the sound effect, that took a little while to sink into me.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got it, it got easier to add them. And then also, to see where a sound effect after someone says something could be pretty funny.
Yeah.
So, that's what I went for, as I got further along.
Yeah. I read the first and last act and or scenes, and the it was weird to me because of the sound effects. Not really used to that, so it kind of kept throwing me off a little bit. But I mean, the writing is really good. I think you did a good job telling the story, or at least the beginning and the ending of it.
Well, I do think that the sound effects for reading purposes are constantly, for me anyways, interrupting the flow,
Yeah.
so I feel like if they weren't there and just for readers of it, it would flow better. But, for the performance, and I imagine the judges will be thinking, okay, in a performance, has the playwright thought about
Right. Yeah.
ways to enhance it? So, I feel like I did because, we did not grow up in the radio age where there was, no TV and you were entertained by radio
Right.
shows.
Yeah.
But my dad did. And so, I know that they were my dad was very like pulled into that. And I
Mhm.
imagine a lot was Westerns. So I can see how important it is to not have any downtime, like where there's just nothing going on.
Right. Yeah. Understood. So, what else you have going on?
Well, that seems like enough, way enough. So working, now on resilience, getting started on that, and then getting that cast and starting rehearsals. And then there's the state competition for community theaters.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the mystery meets will be, going to that. And so we've already been rehearsing, you know, to get ready for that. So soon those rehearsals will, become like every other week instead of weekly, and resilience will take over.
Hmm.
So, it's just right now definitely a full calendar, and, getting ready for the December show seems far away, but it will be here before you know what.
Yeah. I feel like a slacker compared to all the things you're doing.
Well, I feel like I need a nap.
I bet.
In fact, I may like on tomorrow's. So one reason, I did not submit tomorrow is like Blue Monday was the first famous candy
Right.
with the name for Ruth Hunt. And so, tomorrow being Monday, I didn't know because, I have a Blue Monday candy bar
Right.
that I have not opened because I was saving it for either submission date or, hopefully in the event that they say they've chosen my play.
Hmm.
So, a celebratory moment. But, then I thought, like, if you don't capitalize blue, you know, Blue Monday could be like a jinx,
Yeah.
like you didn't win.
Yeah. There you go.
So I'm like, I just I'm too much superstitious, I guess, to like submit it on that day. So I went with Sunday.
Yeah. I mean,
And
there's no reason to wait, I guess. I mean,
nothing was going to change substantially. And really, of the last edits, I wasn't sure if I was improving it or just making it different.
right.
So I thought, no sense driving myself crazy over, should she say this word or should I take this word out? I mean,
Right.
it was really down to that at the point I was. So I mean, I'm satisfied with it. I have a jingle, I wrote a jingle,
Yeah.
and I think it's catchy, and I think people will remember it, and I hope they're given the opportunity to hear it and never forget it.
So when do you find out about this?
The end of September, so I think the 30th.
No, so
Um,
only a couple of weeks away.
yeah, yeah, it's not a long time to wait. So,
Well, hopefully your candy bar lasts that long.
maybe they've like read it already. Like, this week they'll read it and be like, aha, this is the one when they read
Yeah,
mine.
maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sending that out there.
Yeah. So,
But it was fun. I mean, I want to say that maybe not fun in the sense of like most people's fun, but it was learning. So I feel like if I wrote a radio play in the future, it would not be as much of a challenge. And, that's always good for me with Mystery Meats to know that
Yeah,
we might do a radio play.
there you go.
So,
So, this is the last resilience episode. And
yes.
actually, this week we're putting out two podcasts. You want to talk about the second one?
Yes. Well, so let me say for tonight, we're ending with Donna Mills.
We'll talk.
And
We'll talk about that in a second. So,
yes, we must talk about her since
yeah.
she's the last one. But also, Wednesday, I believe, is the date that we are releasing our last episode of the season on a special day. And it's a very special guest, Nell Campbell, who played Columbia in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Mm.
And this is the 50th year, if you can believe that, of, the 50th anniversary
Yeah, it's
for
been a
Rocky
long
Horror.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Nell is traveling around the country and she has a one woman show that she has written and produced. And so, with it, it's like kind of the backstories and things like that of Rocky Horror.
Mm-hmm.
And, so fans come out, you can get meet and greet tickets, photos, it's just a really fun time, sounds like. And she was super cool and fascinating and fun. I
Cool.
could just tell she would be a very fun person.
All right. So that comes out on Wednesday, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right.
And we're excited, that was an honor to look back at 50 years of Rocky Horror with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out.
Especially, this year being 50th year, eh, there are very few movies that like stand the test of time like that
Yeah.
and are still like you can still see Rocky Horror like every year, like multiple places.
Yeah, especially around Halloween, they typically
Hmm.
play it in a lot of places.
Yep.
It's an interesting thing to see. I remember going to see it a couple times, and there were people actually acting out the movie down on the stage while the movie was playing. So
Yeah, and sometimes they throw tomatoes and all kinds of things.
toast, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just a fun. I mean, for the right type person, I think it's a really fun experience.
Yep, for sure. Okay, let's talk about our guest this evening.
So Donna Mills, her resilience story, I think, is one that's probably every parent's fear that
Yeah,
they will get, news that their child is not well.
right.
And, you know, the most people, I mean, I can't imagine it, like I was lucky with Tim, he never really broke any bones or had any serious things like that. So, her daughter, I don't know exactly the age. I'm sure we'll find out in the interview, but her daughter was young when when she started having symptoms that Donna was concerned about.
Hmm.
So I can only imagine what that must have been like for her and for her daughter. And, just to okay, so we know the story has a happy ending
Hmm.
because we've seen photos of the daughter who is now an adult.
Right.
And so we know it ends happily. And I guess that's, kind of like what I was talking about earlier is that, the bad part happens, but the hope part is on the other side of that. And so you will see Donna's story acted out too at Resilience. And, you know,
We have to come up with a better name for that play.
yeah, well, right now, I'm just calling it Resilience because it doesn't have one. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll just say the program is Resilience. And you may see separate titles for the tornado play.
Yeah, I'll have
But
to think about that.
like Donna will be a monologue. So these other stories not related to the tornado, but yet show resilience, those will be monologues.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right. Well, so gonna talk to Donna here in a minute. Anything else before we turn it over?
no, I mean, I just want to say that, I appreciate everyone that shared a story because it takes a lot to open up. And, there were several tears shed while telling these stories. But in the end, I feel like for everybody that sees them and everybody that told the story and everyone that hears a story, it definitely brings about a healing or empathy. There's good that comes from it.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to write it, but I think we can, you know, put together something really good based on the stories that we have.
Yes, there's no way that it won't be great, I feel like, because the stories, you know, we have to do the stories justice. So
Yeah.
we are committed to that.
Yeah, gonna get started on that this week, and hopefully have something at least the beginning of it by the end of the week. We'll see.
Yep. All right. And then, we'll say goodbye on Wednesday and with Nell Campbell, and we'll see everyone in the next season.
All righty, sounds good. Let's go talk to Donna.
Donna, I want to welcome you to share your story about resilience with us. This project has been so interesting, and I know it's very beneficial to others who may be going through, something similar to you. And resilience is very important for communities, and we appreciate you sharing your story as a part of this.
Thank you. Hope it
So,
can.
with your story, can, this is going to focus on a lot about your daughter and how you felt during a time in the past. So, if we go back to that time, what were the first signs to you that something might be wrong?
Well, the first thing that started happening was that she complained with her legs hurting. And, and she kept complaining and crying with them. I mean, it's not like her to cry. I'm tell you what, she's tough as nails. And so I took her to the doctor, and he said, well, she's having growing pains. But
And
it
how
continued.
old was she at this point?
7,
Okay.
and it kept getting worse. And she started crying one night, Mom, I've got fire in my legs. I mean, she was screaming, crying. And this all was occurring at night. Through the day, she was fine. She played, she jumped, she rolled, she everything. But it was at night when the pain came. And
Did you think that was odd, or what were you
yeah,
thinking that it just occurred at night?
I thought it was odd. Well, I had growing pains. I grew 5 inches in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had growing pains, and I knew how bad they could be, but I mean, they weren't as bad as she was letting on. I knew something more was going on, but I didn't know what. And I took her back to the doctor, and I took her to the emergency room a couple times over at Children's Hospital, and they done blood work, and they said everything was fine, and yada yada yada. She's just having growing pains.
And you've said that she was very tough, like, so she's not like, how they say men are if they get a
Yeah.
cold and they take to the bed and, they're like they're dying or something. So she was not one that was timid like that.
No, they called me from school one day for an example, And she had got to playing football, and her little thing, playing football with some of the boys in the hallway, and ran into one of the door facings and laid her forehead open.
Wow.
Well, instead of her crying and carrying on, she just kept wiping the blood out of her face and kept playing, And I had to go get her and get her head stitched up.
Wow. Okay, so she's definitely not one that's just like complaining, at any little thing. So, what were those like months? Was it months that you were kept going to doctors
Yes.
or so what was that like?
Literally, literally banging my head against the wall. Done a lot of praying, me knowing there's something wrong with my child. And took her to a different doctor. And, they done blood work, said blood work was fine, and yada, yada, yada. Well, our family doctor was my neighbor. So a couple months into this, she was screaming and crying. And the only thing that I could find that would help soothe the pain, I'd give her Tylenol. They say rotate Tylenol and Motrin. So I was doing that. But massaging her legs in the heat. So I got some men tube socks, filled them up with rice, and I'd heat it up in the microwave and lay them on her legs, tried to soothe the pain and rub her legs. So I called our family doctor that lived in my neighborhood. I said, you need to come over here now. I want you to see what's happening at night. And he came over and he said, there's definitely something wrong. He said, bring her back into the office tomorrow and we'll do x-rays and yada, yada, yada. So I did. And of course, there was nothing out of that ordinary, blood work, x-rays, and so forth.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, were you thinking at that point then, like, I am maybe just over exaggerating this, or I'm overprotective, or did you still feel deep down definitely something was wrong?
I knew something was wrong. I mean, I knew something was wrong with my child. And so I took her at the end of the 4th month, her feet started swelling. And then she was trying to play Little League basketball, and it got to where her back was hurting. And then one weekend, her shoulder was hurting, had a hard time getting her dressed because she couldn't raise her arm up. And I had even taken her to Shriners Hospital. Somebody said, well, take her to Shriners Hospital. And I took her up there. And of course, it's during the daytime. And the doctor had her running up and down the hallway and checked her and all this stuff. And he even put in his report that I was just an overprotective mother, that there was nothing wrong with my child. So when she couldn't raise her arm up to get her shirt on, and her feet were swelling up, and this was like on a Saturday. So I just called in work on Monday, and Monday morning I didn't know who to call. I thought, okay, who am I going to call? I've been to different doctors. I've been to Children's Hospital several times. I've been to Lexington, to Shriners Hospital. Who do I call? What do I do? So I called up at Shriners Hospital and to that doctor's office, and I told him what was going on. She said, honey, hold on just a minute. The doctor got on the phone, and I told him what was going on. He asked me how far I lived away. I said, it'd take me about 2.5 hours to get there. He said, pack you all a bag, take your time, be safe getting here. And when you get about 20 minutes out, you call this number back and you tell them to get a hold of me. You're 20 minutes out. I'm going to be here waiting for you. And then he started apologizing. He said, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. There's something bad wrong. I said, I know. So we got up there, and he was right there at the door waiting on us. And they took her, and he said, we're going to go ahead and admit her here. So they were getting the paperwork done. He said, we're going to go ahead and take her back and get some x-rays done. And then they'll take you all to the room. Well, they we went to x-rays. They done the x-rays, and they had her. Well, I was sitting in a wheelchair holding her, and they were wheeling us down the hallway. This big long hallway seemed like to her patient room. And this nurse come running down the hallway, said, "Wait, wait, wait, just a minute." And the lady that's pushes turned around, and I said, they said, "We've got an ambulance from UK coming over to get her."
What?
Yeah, I knew then something was bad. I mean, I was there alone with her, and I mean, my heart, oh my gosh, you just can't imagine. I thought my heart was going to stop.
What
My
were you thinking that it could be?
Well, my grandfather had died about a year and a half before with bone cancer. And when we started out, I said, "What's going on?" And they told me on the x-rays that they took full body x-rays of her. Said she had lesions. She had a big chunk that was gone out of her bone in her shoulder. But she had lesions on her bones from her skull down to the little bones in her feet. And I was I was I was beside myself. I mean, I was bawling and a crying, and I thought they were going to take us over to the emergency room at UK. So they got us over there, and they didn't
Did you go in the ambulance with her, or did you have to drive there?
have to drive my car there because I didn't have no way to get back to get it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got over there, and they didn't take us to the emergency room. They took us to oncology clinic. And I fell apart right there. I said, "Why did you bring us here?" I mean, I was just in
It-
complete denial. I just couldn't. Why are you bringing her to oncology? They said, "Well, they'll talk to you in here."
So
And we
no
got,
one had said cancer or anything.
no,
Wow.
no. So we got in there, and they get her hooked up IV, and they start giving her morphine. And it took the third dose of morphine IV to get her pain under control. It's what that child has been through. These three doctors took me in the little room, the dreadful little room, and told me about her x-rays, and they how bad her bones were eaten pretty much, and asked me about her family history. And I said, "Yeah, there's a lot of cancer in our family." And I told them about my grandpa dying with bone cancer. And they said, "We're not sure what kind she's got," that they were going to have to do a spinal tap on her. And they couldn't do that till the next morning. So they admitted her there at UK. So I called my family, and they all come up there, and they took her into surgery to do the spinal tap the next morning. And it was one of those hurry up and wait for results, you know. And when the doctor came to tell us, he said, "Well, I've got some good news." And I'm like, "Wow, yay."
Right.
He says she has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And I looked at him, I said, "How is that good news?" And I mean, I just started crying. I said, "How is that good news?" He said, "It's curable. It's 80% curable." And he said, "Be honest with you," he said, "I thought it was much worse than that." And he said, "You done good. You've done the right job. Keep on and on and on." Because I told him what I'd been through, to get to this point, find out what's going on. But they done blood work on her then, and her blood work was still normal until after they done the spinal tap, and her white blood count and all that stuff went crazy. They said her blood work was atypical,
Mm.
and I had to look all that up. But, that's why it wasn't showing up. It was there, but it just wasn't showing up in her blood work. That's why nobody could find it.
So when do you tell her, or how does she find out?
I tell her, she knows she's sick, And I told her, but she didn't really understand, I guess, what
Right.
it was and stuff. So they wanted to start chemo treatments with her at UK. And I said, I can't be this far away from home. I've got a 10-year-old daughter at home. And I said, if she takes chemo treatments up here, then I'm going to, I can't be this far from home. I just can't. But anyway, we got her transferred to East Tennessee Children's Hospital in Knoxville. And that's where they started the chemo treatments. And it was amazing after the first chemo treatment how much better that child felt.
Wow.
And from that point on, she was improving. She was playing, she was running up down the hallway. I mean, everybody in the hospital knew who Rachel was. And she, her doctor, she said, I've never had a patient like her. But we stayed in the hospital 16 days that time, when she started on the chemo and done all that. Then she got out, and then we would go to the clinic. There's a hospital for chemo treatments. And thinking every 88 days they were going to treat her brain. They said this type of leukemia, if it comes back, it will come back in her brain. So in 88 days, they done the spinal fluid injection, in her spinal cord, the chemo treatment in her spinal cord. Well, after they done it, her oxygen level dropped and it wouldn't come back up. And they admitted her to the hospital and we were in there. And I mean, this went on for days. She was on oxygen because every time they take it off, her oxygen level would drop like down into the 70s. And the doctor took me in that dreadful little room again and told me that they didn't know if she was going to make it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so is that because of the chemo? Is that what caused?
yes, she had a reaction to the drug, is what happened. And it went into her brain. So they done an MRI on her brain. And I can't remember when they do MRI, the image, your brain is white or gray. I don't remember, but hers is opposite of what it should be, and it still is today. But anyway, thank God she come through that. And then got past that. And then some of the drugs, she took so many different chemo drugs, and some of them she had to be admitted to the hospital for, and some of them we had to stay within a few minutes of the hospital for days. And we lived at the Ronald McDonald House off and on for 2 years. And because it was just a couple blocks from the hospital. But anyway, they come in to tell me that they were giving her the chemo treatment. She was in the hospital. And so this is the medication that she's going to lose her hair. When she gets up in the morning, more than likely her hair will be on the pillow. They took me out in the hallway to tell me this. Well, I start crying. I'm like, oh no, how's she going to take this? Yada, yada, yada. And they said, well, we've got a Charlie Brown movie. We're going to bring you all to watch in your room. And one of the characters, starts getting sick at school and on it. And then she finds out that she has leukemia and she takes treatment. She loses her hair and it, explains it on a kid level. What's going to happen? Well, here I am still trying not to cry in front of Rachel when I go back in to tell her. And I said, Rachel, they're going to bring a Charlie Brown movie in for us to watch. And she, oh, yay. And I said, and there's the thing, the medicine that they're giving you in your IV tonight. And I explained to her the chemo drug. And I said, when you get up in the morning, I said, you probably won't have any hair. Your hair will probably stay on the pillow when you get up. Well, I'm expecting her to start bawling and crying. No. She sat straight up in her bed and she looked at me. She said, I'm not going to have any hair. I'm like, no. She said, I don't have to wash it and comb it.
she's how old at this point? 9, 10?
Oh, she's still 7.
Still 7. Wow.
Yeah. And she was getting close. Well, no, she was still 7. But that was such relief for me that she was happy about not having any hair. So we watched the movie, watched the Charlie Brown movie and everything. But she was so excited. She said, "Mommy, that little girl's sad. She don't have no hair." She just couldn't understand that. So the next morning, whenever she got up, I mean, she had little strands of hair here and there, but 90% of it was gone. And she said, "Mom, shave my head." And here I am wanting to cry again. Like, I'm like, "Oh no." She said, "Mom, please shave my hair, shave my head. I don't want, the rest of this hair on my head." So I shaved it for her. And she had the prettiest little old head.
Yeah.
But she just loved it. And they have this program that he'll pat wigs or something for kids with cancer that she could pick out a wig and a little floppy hat. And so we ordered her one, or I ordered her one, and got her the little hat. She didn't want no part of it. She liked not having hair. But it started coming back, and then Christmas time was coming, and they asked her at the Ronald McDonald House if she would design the Christmas card from draw them a Christmas picture. And I said, "Sure." And so she drew one. It was a Christmas tree, and it looked like a cat under the tree. She loved cats. And she, gave it to them, and they loved it. Of course, that was, Ronald McDonald House. The Christmas cards is one of their big fundraisers throughout the year. And so she was the artist for the Christmas card that year. So there was a big story in the Knoxville News Sentinel about it, and a picture of the card. And there was this guy called the hospital because he thought it was a wiener dog. He did look like a wiener dog. But he wanted to give her a wiener dog. They breed them, and he had some pups, and so he thought it was a wiener dog, and he wanted to give her. So I told her about it, and oh yeah, so we got one. We ended up having to give away because it was so crazy that in the hospital,
Yeah,
and stuff, and then people started mailing her Christmas cards and bringing her little gift baskets, and because we were in the hospital there close to Christmas too. And she said, "Mom, why are people sending me these Christmas cards telling me to get well and stuff?" Because I'd read them all to her. She said, "I'm not sick. Why are they doing this?" I mean, she was tougher than I was through this. She really was. And so, it went on, and then not Make-A-Wish, but Dream Connection. We were staying at the Ronald McDonald House, and she was quite the celebrity. I'm telling you, everybody knew Rachel. If you meet her, you'll never forget her, still to this day. But they came to the Ronald McDonald House to interview her and talk to her. And they said, "Tell us 3 things that if you could do anything you wanted to do, 3 things that you would want to do." She said, "Get slimed, get slimed, get slimed."
So I guess she's going to get slimed.
So she wanted to get slimed, yeah. And they said, "What about, like ride a train or something?" Britney Spears was big then. She loved Britney Spears. I said, "What about going to a Britney Spears concert?" "No, I want to get slimed," But what they sent us, they flew us down there. There's a place down there, Give Kids the World Village. It's amazing. And they got little rides. You could stay there for a week and not go anywhere and have fun. But the rule was they had an ice cream shop that was open all the time. And if the child wanted ice cream for breakfast, we could not tell them no.
Hey, Matt, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
She really enjoyed that. But so we went to Disney World, and she was Mickey Mouse's special guest for the day, and that was just a dream vacation, I'm telling you. And then we went to Nickelodeon Studios at Universal, and she got slimed. And
her wish came true.
Yeah.
Was it everything she thought it would be?
Yes. Yeah. She just, oh my gosh, she was on cloud nine. She was just so excited. She said, "Can we do it again?" She just loved it.
All right, Matt. I think this is your place, Florida, and all of that. And
I mean, ice cream for breakfast? Who wouldn't want that? No?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, let's continue with the story. I want to know, like, after you got back from that, like, where did it go?
Yeah. Okay. And my other daughter, the older daughter, she got to go on this trip with us too. So it was a family thing they sent us on. So we get back, and she continues treatments, and she done real well with the treatments. And then when they had the 88 days was up again, and they needed to treat her spinal fluid again, they used a different drug, and she done okay with it. But she got to where she could take drugs, chemo medicine at home, pills, because about the second she took chemo treatments for 26 months. And I'm going to say the 20th month, it kind of slowed down going into the clinic, because we'd only have to go like once a month at that time. And then she could take the medicine at home. And I had to take a leave of absence from work with no pay. And it was a really, really hard and financially for me.
Yeah.
But there was times that she was released from the hospital, and we'd go home, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to feed these kids? Because at that time, the only income I had was child support.
Right.
Had a house payment, had a car payment, and I had 2 kids. But I had called the bank, and they said, as long as you can make interest payments, you're fine. Okay. So, and then groceries, I'm like, what am I going to do? And by this time, my neighbors had keys to my house. My church family had keys to my house. My family had keys to the house. And I'm telling you what, there's so many times that we come home from the hospital, and I walk in, and they knew we were on our way home, and there'd be a hot meal sitting on the stove. There'd be groceries sitting on the countertop. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, when people say it takes a village, it took a village. So, it was such a blessing. But during the times, like those last 6 months, I got to take her down to school one day and let her visit, and she had to take that medicine again where she lost her hair again. She had to do that 2 different times, when she was, again, so excited about that, no hair. But we went down to school, and they were outside playing when we went out there, and she, the kids were not afraid of her, but just kind of leery, I guess.
Like they didn't know how to act around her.
Yeah, called Rachel. She had gained weight, and because some of the medicine she take, oh my gosh, she would eat and eat and eat and eat. She gets moon face. I mean, there were so many effects and things that happened to her through all of this, physically, mentally. And But, when she got to talking to them, her little friends and stuff, they were all so excited to see her. She was so excited to see them, and that was a memorable trip to school that day.
Yeah.
Just couldn't wait to get back to school. So she missed one full year of school. She got diagnosed like March the 3rd of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she was out of school from then until fall of 2002. And, but we still had to go in. There was times she was in the hospital and times, but she could be around people at that time. There was time her blood count was so low that, I mean, nobody could come around,
Right.
terms.
Yeah.
And Rachel was one of those kids that would not wear shoes. Go outside and play, and you look, and she ain't got her shoes on. She just took them off and threw them somewhere. Oh, yeah. Well, she can't do that. Said, like if she's outside playing and there's been a dog there that's used the bathroom, just a little microscopic cut on her foot, and she steps on that, and that gets in there, said it will kill her.
Right.
And so that scared me to death because all the neighborhood dogs seem to use my backyard. Yeah. So I had fence put up to protect her. I just had link fence put up around the backyard, keep the dog so she could go outside and play. But she's one tough little gal, and I'm gonna tell you what, she got me through this more than I got her through this. I mean, she was, once she got to feeling better, she had the attitude like, I'm not sick. Why are we having to do this?
Yeah.
And
then being so young, I mean, definitely the epitome of resilience,
yes.
Yeah. What was what's your feeling towards healthcare people in general? I mean, you've got pretty much run the gamut where, you run into some who are not really, I don't want to say not doing their jobs, but not doing it the best that they could because they didn't realize what was going on and kind of pushed it off as, just some generic thing. And then kind of cast aspersions on you about, you were just overreacting and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then you also ran into the other side of it where, Ronald McDonald House and, people at Shriners and all of that. So what's your feeling about all of that?
Well, I was very angry there at the beginning because I knew something was wrong with my child, and these were doctors were telling me, "Hey, no, there's not. It's growing pains."
Right.
And I was very angry. And then when they said, and when they done the blood test at UK before they done, when they admitted her that day, and they come back and said her blood work was normal, it showed inflammation in her
Right.
blood, but her white blood count and all that stuff was good until the next day. And then everything changed. It showed up. They said there's very few people like that will have an atypical blood work. And I'm like, that it just won't show up. Then all of a sudden it does. And she was that person. And I thought, well, the other doctors and stuff I took her to tried, they did do blood work and stuff, and it just wasn't showing up.
Yeah.
And, but, and then it did, but I mean,
That seems a little, I mean, I would be a little skeptical about it, to be honest with you, if
yeah,
they told me that. But, I mean, I guess anything is possible,
but I was mad and angry, and my neighbor, my friend that was their family doctor, I was mad at him and, and everybody else just,
Yeah, yeah.
but, uh, but thank God out what was going on, and her oncologist there at Children's Hospital, examined her and she says she's very lucky that her organs had not started showing any damage. Usually with leukemia, she said that, they'll start showing signs of damage to their organs. And she said you kept on top of it hard enough that finally got her diagnosed and in time
Yeah.
for that not to happen.
Can I ask how long it took for you when you first noticed when you first noticed the issue to the time that she was diagnosed? How long did that take?
4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4 months.
And then, so
it was tough because, her screaming and crying at night, me trying to soothe her, and I taught high school and, trying to work and, get up and
yeah, not knowing what was wrong. Yeah. Hmm. So I guess the big question is, how is she now?
she will be 32 years old September 1st. September 21st, yes.
Yeah.
She still has some long-term issues, but she's still tough as nails, I'm telling you. Still tough as nails. She's a over-the-road truck driver.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She doesn't deal with people very well at all.
Where do you think that comes from?
Oh, no.
I mean, from what you were saying, she was pretty sociable and all that. So.
Yeah, she was. But, it just, there's a lot of things that changed at school after she had all this chemo stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of things. Before that, they had tested her. Before she got sick, they had tested her because she was above and beyond everybody else in math. And they done an IQ test on her, and she had 124 on her IQ in math. Oh. Yeah. And you had to have be 126 to be considered in the gifted and talented group.
Right.
But all that changed after all of this.
Well, kids change and, but sort of the whole vibe changes once you get into the higher grades and things, and kids are all, they're mean,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then she's a little different, not what they're kind of used to, and that's probably where a lot of that comes from. So, what does she remember? Does she remember all of this? Or?
I've talked to her about it. And, I'd mentioned certain things to her. She said, Mom, I don't remember any of that.
She doesn't remember getting slimed?
Yeah, she's got that picture. Actually, I'm in her room right now, and the picture that was in the newspaper. I don't know if you can see my video. She's got the newspaper article here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This one I sent a group a picture of the other day. She's so proud of that. Still yet,
So when did things start to turn around for her? Like, how long after, let's say, the trip that you guys took, did things start to turn for her?
Yeah, because they had scheduled our trip. The first original trip we had to go on had to be postponed because that's when she had the reaction in her brain.
Right.
So we had to wait a few more months to go on the trip. And then after that, she done real good with the chemo. They just, her doctor, her oncologist, Dr. Vicky, just couldn't believe it, that she said, I've never had a kid like her, in the clinic there, all the kids with their little IVs and treatments and stuff. And Rachel's got her pole and she's running here and running there. little play areas for them and stuff, and but I mean, her attitude was great through it, and
Yeah. So when did she start feeling better and, like the doctor's visits kind of slowed down and that sort of thing?
the last the last 6 months, she only took sh medicine by mouth.
Hmm.
Last the last year of that, like I say, she done 26 months. Last year of that, she, could tell a difference in her. In fact, I mean, she was feeling better, and she was playing, and she was wanting to do more of her normal things that she was doing. I'm trying to find the remote control for his TV because my phone is about to
No.
be. But get my phone plugged up here. But she, she was ready to go back to school. She was getting homeschooled at that time. I was working with her at home
Yeah.
and trying to keep her up with everything. But and then it got to where her little friends could come over and play with her. That the the last year of that
Yeah.
and stuff. And then we got a phone call one day that one of the little friends that come over to play with her had the chicken pox.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah. So I called her oncologist. She said, "You've got to get her over here now." She said, "Has she been vaccinated for the chicken pox?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You need to get her over here and let us test her to see if that vaccination took." Said if it didn't and she breaks out with the chicken pox, it will kill her.
Mm.
Yeah. So took her over there to the hospital and they tested her and that vaccine did not take. She was not vaccinated. The vaccination did not take for the chicken pox.
Wow.
And she told me how much the shots, they were going to have to give her a shot simultaneously in the front of each of her legs. And then she told me how much those shots were going to cost. So, it don't matter. It's going to save my child's life.
Fine.
And so they gave her those 2 shots in front of her legs, and that was excruciating pain for her.
Hmm.
But had to do it to save her life. But that was the only big scare with her being in the general. Well, she wasn't in the general public, but just one of her little friends had come over to play.
Yeah. So I guess this was pretty hard financially
Yeah.
for a very long time.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the first things, because when I had taken leave of absence from school for a whole school year and I didn't get paid.
Right.
And no, it wasn't a whole school year. I ended up taking off from the beginning of the school year to I didn't go back to work till February. I had to go back. I mean,
Right.
but there at the beginning, when she was transferred to a children's hospital, the 14th day that we were in there, the doctor come in there and she said, "You need to go down to the business office to set up payments for her," and said her balance right now is $42,000.
Mm.
Yeah. Said that her insurance did not cover children's hospital. And I just started crying. I said, ain't no use in me going down there. I said, I can't pay that. I
Right.
can't pay payments. And she said, we can transfer her back to UK or we can send her to to St. Jude's
Mm.
or to, oh gosh, there was 3 places. I don't remember the other place. But anyway, said those are covered by your insurances. I said, those are too far away from home. and I have another child at home, and I cannot go off and leave, and I'm not going to, and you can't make us leave.
Right.
And so she just looked at me, and she gave me Rachel's prescription. So she said, "You're going to have to get these filled while she's here in the hospital and bring them back so we can see you have them filled before we will release her." I said, "I can do that." And so she come back in the next day. She said, "I think I figured out a way around this." She said, "I'm going to write a letter to the insurance just explaining to them what you told me yesterday about, me having another kid and how far away, how many hours away these hospitals are.
Right.
If I have to go to St. Jude's," I said, "I'm going to have to get an apartment out there, and I can't do that."
Right.
And and so she wrote a letter to the insurance, and they made an exception for Rachel.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
What do you think it would have been like had they not?
Well, they couldn't refuse her treatment. That's what I told her. I said, "Y'all can't refuse her treatment." I said, "I'll keep bringing her back,
Mm.
but I will fight for my child."
Yeah, of course. So, what would you say to I mean, do you think that in general, I mean, I realize this is your daughter, and, in general, would you say that somebody who is a patient at a hospital would need somebody there to advocate for them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Because, I mean,
sad.
yeah. I mean, being a patient, you're not going to get everything that they tell you. And it's always good to have someone there to, like, look,
Yes.
look up the things and, take notes or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And take notes. I kept a note. I still have it.
Yeah. It's just to write things down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got to be a lot for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kat, go ahead. I know you have more questions.
So, your oldest daughter, you've mentioned her a few times throughout. What was her reaction to all of this? Because I'm sure it must have changed her life significantly too.
It did, because here she's 10 years old, and here I'm having to pass her off to whoever I can find to keep her while Rachel's in the hospital. My neighbors, my friends, my mom and dad kept her. And it was, I know she felt like I had abandoned her. I mean, and it was just hard that it was hard on me and her to not be able to be with her like I was, because me and my girls was always close.
Yeah. So, where did you find strength to get through all of these things?
God. I mean, that was it. My family doctor had started giving me nerve pills, and there from March up until July, I was taking them, and we were in the hospital, and the social worker would come in and talk to me there at the hospital. She was great, and we talked quite a bit and done a lot of praying, and she told me, she said, "You know what?" She said, "You're the only person your daughter's got. You need to remember that." I said, "Yep, I am." So she left the room. I flushed the nerve pills down the toilet. And I thought, I'm going to have to get my act together, keep my mind straight. And I did. God got me through it. A lot of praying. He gave me strength. Rachel gave me strength. I mean, she was a trooper through this. Then the social worker was great. Social worker would come in, and I don't know if maybe who told her or whatever, but I would eat whatever Rachel didn't eat off her tray because I didn't have money to go to the cafeteria. And she came up and she gave me some meal tickets. She said, "Yeah." She said, "Have you been eating?" I said, "Oh yeah, I've been eating." And she kept asking because somebody had told her. She said, and so finally I just broke down, told her, I said I'd wait till Rachel got done eating and then I would eat what she didn't eat, you know. But she kept me and kept me up with meal tickets. Really.
So it seems like you have seen, the very best of people.
Yes.
And then, maybe the worst in some ways. Like, in Louisville, like when you made that trip and they said, "Come there," finally. Like, what if they had not said that? Did you have a plan beyond what you were gonna do then because you had been to so many different people?
Well, if they hadn't have done nothing, I would. At this time, she couldn't walk. I was having to carry her, and I mean, this just kind of happened overnight. And if they hadn't done that, I guess I would had went to UK or Central Baptist, and I would made my rounds there at the hospital. The hospitals are in Lexington.
So, what have you learned about people as you look back over this experience?
We have met so many people, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of good people all around. I can't think of anybody that we've run across, that worked at the hospital or the Ronald McDonald House or anything that was ever rude or didn't try to help or comfort. Everybody was awesome. Everybody from the janitors to the nurses to the doctors to the counselors, everybody. And and when I say everybody knew Rachel, everybody knew Rachel. So when they had the Children's Miracle Network, their what's it called? Where they call in, where you can call in and donate money.
Like a telethon or
Yeah, telephone. When they have their telephone, they come to the room and say, "We've heard about Rachel. Can we talk to her?" So they wanted her on TV. So they took her out in the hallway and let her run up and down the hall and show what all she could do and all this stuff for the telethon.
so looking back and, this season of your life, what did it teach you about resilience and motherhood? And because you'd been a mother, for 10 years, I guess, with your oldest daughter. But, what did this teach you about community and motherhood and resilience?
Oh, gosh, I learned a lot. Here I was a single mom. And I started out with this angry at the world because couldn't find out what's wrong with my kid. And, but, but through it all, everybody came together. My community, my neighborhood, my friends, my family, healthcare. I mean, that in general, people are good. You know, people are good. And motherhood, it taught me to hang in there and fight for your kids. I mean, there was times I'd get frustrated. I mean, I get really frustrated because knowing there's something wrong with my kid and I couldn't find out, but I knew I could not give up. I had to get Rachel some help. We had to get her better. We had to find out. But it taught me at that point that sometimes you just got to stand up and fight. And I don't mean physically, but, just don't give up.
Were you stronger than you thought you were?
Yes. Yes. I stayed strong. I didn't let Rachel see me cry. She'd hear me snubbing sometimes, but I always tried not to cry in front of her. But I remember whenever I went home, she was in the hospital. I think my mom came over to stay with her while I ran home, took me a shower, get me some clean clothes and stuff. And I mean, our house was wall to wall toys. And I think we had a tent setting up in the living room at the time. And because she won't play camping. And when I walked in that house without her and my other daughter wasn't there, I mean, fell to pieces. I mean, that was just, I mean, it just come crashing down on me what all she had just been through and what we had found out. And, she had leukemia and it's not guaranteed that she's going to make it through this. And what am I going to do if she don't? I mean, I just don't know that I could live through that. I mean, just all these emotions come crashing in on me all at one time when I walked into that empty house without my kids. And that was hard. And it definitely made me strong.
So, what do you hope that people that see your story in the Resilience Show, what do you hope they take away?
I hope they take away that they need to be their child's voice, not to be passive about things if their child is complaining about hurting or aching or something like that, because, like there at the beginning, it was growing pains, growing pains. And if you feel like something's wrong, stay on top of it. Just don't be passive. To be your child's voice.
All right, Matt, do you have any last thoughts or?
No, I think I think it's good story and not good, but certainly does capture the whole resilience thing. It's particularly heartbreaking story in some ways, but thank you for telling us about it. I think, people will identify with it a little bit and, get something good from it.